In 1938, Earl created what would come to be considered the first corporate car built solely as an experiment in style and function, the Buick Y-Job. The Y-Job featured retractable soft-top roof, power windows, and concealed headlights. In 1950, Earl's team unveiled what is widely considered to be one of the most outstanding concept cars ever built, the jet fighter-inspired LeSabre.
I think you can see how this car has been influenced, by the jet age, the emerging jet age. There's a air intake in the front like a jet air intake, and what's really cool about that is the headlights swivel around, so they're hidden and they swivel around in the front air intake.
The LeSabre had heated seats and a rain detector to automatically put up the convertible top. The interior continued the fighter jet motif, and the LeSabre was the first car to have a wraparound windshield, which all cars now have.
There was just a lot of technology in this vehicle for the early 50s, so it wasn't just a great looker. I mean, this car was all about the future.
Taking the concept car to the outer limits in 1954, Earl introduced the first of his Firebird cars.
This was a car that was turbine-powered. It sat one person. It looked like a fuselage with wings.
Earl followed the Firebird 1 with the even wilder Firebirds 2 and 3. Like many concept cars, the Firebirds were built to give their parent company bragging rights.
Harley Earl didn't have that car built to test public reaction to the idea of it going into production. He had it built to tease the public, to say, look at General Motors, look what we're doing. We are thinking so far ahead of everybody else. Just think of what kind of technology is embodied in your production car if we're thinking this far ahead already.
The optimism of the 50s, to use one example, is what actually created those fabulous cars with tail fins and afterburner tail lamps and gobs of chrome all over them, because we really thought that that's what the future would look like.
Though none of these fantastic concept cars ever saw the assembly line, they helped automakers and the public to find the direction of car design for the fast-approaching future. The result? A whole new generation of concept cars. Today's concept cars are no less enthralling, offering new dreams for a new age.
At least so far in this century, it's all about choice. And people want adventure, they want status, they want retrospective design, they want optimism, they want rebellion. Your future is your choice, and we're going to deliver that on a plate that allows you to pick from a spectrum of possibilities, because the whole point of design is for us to try to make your life better.
The role of science fiction will also have a strong influence in predicting what cars will look like in the future.
If you want something with an impact that makes people think, wow, that is really different, then you really have to radically change the proportions.
Designer Harold Belker did just that when he conceived of a sports car for Steven Spielberg's futuristic film Minority Report. Belker believes this is what a Lexus may look like in the year 2054.
You ask yourself, what would it take to really push it over the top? So the answer was that I shifted the whole proportion so far forward that a lot of people, when they saw the car, thought it was actually going the other way, which is, in a way, a great success, because you really have introduced a new shape that people are not comfortable with. With that shape, we're going to see probably a lot more designs in that direction, and then at some point there are going to be people who introduce completely different shapes.
Science fiction has pretty steadily predicted actual technological progress.
Sid Mead is a former car designer who has visualized the far distant future in films such as Tron, 2010, Alien, and Blade Runner. Consider this view of car technology of the future in Mead's illustration known as the Silver Coach.
So you arrive in this vehicle. Now you've got high technology because there's one wheel in the front, and that big black sphere in back is the traction, the motive power, the steering, and suspension, everything. And it literally is floating in this loop that it's trapped in by electromagnetic attraction. Because it's a sphere, You can roll the thing down around in a circle and park it. You can go forward, back, stop, start. So it's an idea for a very elaborate kind of vehicle, and you can just see the two people in back getting out. They've just arrived, and you can make anything of it that you like.
The 1956 Firebird 2 concept car was part of a plan for a controlled access electronic highway system. The roadway would have embedded wires for cars to pick up the signal and steer the vehicle automatically. Modern Marvel's Car Tech of the Future will return on the History Channel.
The ultimate car technology of the future has to be a vehicle with all the comforts of a car without the constraints of the ground. The so-called flying car.
Flying cars already exist. Flying cars were developed in the 1960s.
The first flying car to be certified by the Civil Aeronautics Administration, the predecessor of the FAA, was the Airphibian, a plane adapted for the road. Its six-cylinder engine could fly at 120 miles per hour and drive at 50 miles per hour. In the 1960s, the Aerocar gained notoriety flying on TV shows. The cockpit was a fiberglass shell based on a Geo Metro car. A 10-foot-long drive shaft connected the engine to a pusher propeller. Even though this was the most successful flying car ever built, lack of venture capital kept mass production on the ground. The Aerocar was the last roadable aircraft to receive FAA approval. Since the 1980s, Carl Moeller and his company, Moeller International, has been working on hovercraft technology. This early model uses 8 rotary engines generating 400 horsepower. Rotary engines are giant fans pushing air downward to create lift. Moeller's new experimental M400 Skycar uses 4 rotary engines generating 720 horsepower. The engines can rotate after liftoff to create forward thrust. Top speed is projected to be 380 miles an hour. This computer-generated hovercraft from Macro Industries shows what a personal hovercraft of the future might look like. Its flight characteristics are very similar to a helicopter. But while cross-country commuting might be practical, grocery shopping might be a lot more complicated.
We have problems with drivers who can't look right and left. Think about if they have to be in the air and look right, left, and now up and down.
I think eventually the day will come where technology will catch up and we will have a flying car that popular science and all those people in the 50s really wanted to see.
Every year, more and more serious scientists assume that we will figure out why gravity works, we really don't know still, and how to control it. So you've got to have a capacitor, like a gravity capacitor of some kind, and then carefully control the energy going into the capacitor and coming back out, like you do in any version of electronics, in order to control gravity, and I think we'll do it.
Today, the future of car technology is taking shape at schools, such as the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. For 70 years, this campus has educated more name car designers than any other place in the world. Here, the students must master the various skills they'll need to design the cars of tomorrow, a role that will grow in importance in the years ahead.
There's some huge opportunities for the car industry in future to think more about a much greater array of vehicles that any particular customer might choose to use according to what their journey is going to be. And we're encouraging our students to start thinking a lot more about what kinds of vehicles should we be designing which will enable people still to have the freedom of use of the automobile without some of the drawbacks.
Michael Rinaldi's project is to create a car that could help alleviate traffic congestion problems in major cities.
Futuristic thing about my vehicle is that it's self-driving. It's satellite GPS controlled. We're about 2 to 3 years away from having a vehicle that can legitimately run around in an environment by itself being controlled by GPS satellites. Being that it's self-guided, the vehicle can literally drop you off at a terminal in front of the building, in front of a school, such as like a theme park ride, and they can run off by themselves and go park themselves. You never have to go find your car again if you don't have to.
If there's any trend in the history of car technology, it's that we'll keep one eye on the past while looking towards the future.
I think the important thing about technology is it changes because lifestyles change. And if you don't keep up with it, you lose sort of important segments of the market.
There have been huge strides in efficiency in terms of emissions and fuel economy. in the cars that we drive today compared to those of even 10 years ago, never mind 30 or 40. So efficiency, emissions control, those are clearly trends that are going to continue.
What we're trying to do is to build vehicles that absolutely have no trade-offs, where you have safety, environmental responsibility, emotion, fun to drive, easy, convenient, luxurious. Customers of today no longer want just one of those, they want all of them.
You can't always get all those things out of the same package at the same time, but you can have a selection, just a keyboard on the dashboard, to decide how you want your car to be at any given instant, whether you want it to have high performance or high economy.
It's extremely difficult to say what kinds of cars we're going to be driving in the future, but whatever they are, you know they're going to be very aerodynamic, you know that they're going to be very clean, they're going to use materials that can be recycled, and they're going to look really, really cool.
The automobile's rich history has proven time and time again that the only limit on its future is man's ability to dream.